Met County is seeking to unseat the core principal Isaac Ruto. He's also the incumbent governor there in Bomet County. Joining me in studio to talk more about some of those political stories we've brought you this afternoon. On my extreme right is Brian Mutia. He's a governance expert. Also with us is Douglas Ebole. He is a running mate for Geoffrey Wanyoike, who's a gubernatorial candidate, independent Nairobi County. I hope I got all of that right. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us. So let's begin with that last story we just ran there. And Laboso, the president attending her manifesto launch. What do you think of her chances in light of a core principal being the incumbent and unseating him vis-a-vis the stronghold that this region is for Jubilee?
Sure. The chance is there, all the chances for her clinching that seat is there. However, it's very narrow compared to how the competitiveness of this party, this political seat of Bomet has taken. And if you look at the two, parties involved are so heavy that you can say it will be a very close one to call. And I want to equate Bomet with Machakos because that's another area that we'll also be focusing in terms of our interests as pundits to see how it's going to unfold. And again, if you look at her candidature, of course, she is enjoying all the support from the party of the land, in the sense that we all know that Bomet has been dubbed as a Jubilee stronghold. However, there are the forces of the incumbency, of course, that are not so easily to uproot, of course, going by the nature of the stature of the incumbent Governor Isaac Ruto, who has also, built a sort of stature through being the first Council of Governors chair, and a position which he executed so successfully and earned himself accolades across the country. And his vocal sense in terms of articulating of issues, you realize that he has actually, gone a notch higher in terms of the position is warming, politically speaking, at the pecking order of the Pentagon. And that's not a small feat for someone like that. And therefore, it will be so close for me to say these two guys are almost of equal, strength when it comes to competitive politics.
All right.
Absolutely.
Do you think the gubernatorial race will have an impact on the presidential race, or will the people decide whoever they want for governor? But when it comes to the president, they'll continue to put all their votes in Uhuru Kenyatta's basket?
I think the gubernatorial race is going to be slightly different. I think people are going to choose the governors they believe in, the governors they want. People might vote for the president on a separate, on a party ticket, but when it comes to the governor, I think people are willing to look at the governor who can actually perform and the governor who they trust. And just like my colleague has said here, when you look at Bomet, it's interesting to see that we have Laboso and also we have Ruto. And the difference is that, just like you said, Ruto has built a very big base. And to make it, to add on value to that, he's also a core principal in NASA. And he's able to galvanize his people towards a certain cause, sort of like relating directly to the needs of the people in that particular area. So definitely he has a few steps ahead.
Yeah, although we've seen him not join the other principals in campaigns elsewhere, he's largely remained at home. So does that for you speak to a man not very sure, despite being a principal, of his base, and he needs to remain there to just galvanize?
I think he knows that his backyard is vulnerable, and I want to equate him with a father who cannot just leave his home unattended because of the vulnerabilities that he perceives are existing. And that being one factor, of course, he knows that years are more tedious sort of, a workload to cater for, and that is actually ensuring that he keeps the crowd excited, the crowd on the move, so that they do not forget that as much as they are being given this hope, this change that we have been talked about, we have been told by Laboso, there still exists the incumbent, and therefore he has to constantly keep on reminding the people of Bomet that he is still the man of the house.
All right, so let's talk about the state of the presidential race. Time is running out. You have the NASA leaders, the flag bearer is in Kericho County, so are the other principals, but in different parts of Kericho. They've sort of like, each camped out, and then they will come up together towards the end of the day in one big rally. And yesterday they were in Bomet, and then the president is also in the same region. For you, what does this speak to as far as the politics in this region is concerned?
For me, for the core principles of NASA being in different particular places, actually campaigning, I think it's a good strategy. It beats the purpose if you have all of them in one particular place. So you have one in a different area, one in a different area, galvanizing and talking and selling the issues to the people, then meeting in one particular place whereby now they can be able to roll up or sort of like finish the campaign. I think it's a good strategy by NASA. When it comes to Jubilee, there are only two, and most of the time they're in one particular place. So I think it's a disadvantage for Jubilee when, you know, 5 people can be in 5 places, and also 6 plates in one day, yet you can only be in 1 or 2 places.
So they're beating them, you agree, in numbers, or do you think, especially for those who don't get the presidential candidate, visiting them in their regions feel shortchanged, quote unquote?
Absolutely, and I think when you're visited by a core principal, I think you have a feeling of you know, these people do care and these people are reaching out, because most of the people want to see you and actually relate to you. So if you cannot reach them, then you might be losing on that end.
Yeah, your thoughts?
I do echo, but again, I think it all depends on the strategies and the approaches that they have actually put in place. Maybe Jubilee has actually, you know, seen the value of actually sticking the two guys together, the president and his number 2 together, as opposed to the multi-pronged approach that NASA has actually endeared or taken, so to speak.
Yes.
But again, it is of benefits when it comes to, you know, comping the area with a sort of multifaceted approach, where you send one soldier on the other side, and at the end of the day, you converge at a certain point which you feel will now bring all the values together. But again, I want to say that is Jubilee, it's still a little bit early for them maybe to go separate ways. Maybe they just want to show a statement that their unity is of purpose, and maybe it's a sort of message that they're sending to the electorate. Maybe in future, or in the nearer future, perhaps we are going to see them going separate ways to hand on to, you know, thronged approach.
Yeah.
So we never know.
All right. As you give me your closing remarks, talk to me about seeing and following the campaign trail and where the two camps have been visiting in the last few days and weeks. Do you think they're losing or dropping the ball in essence in some of this, their rallies, or are they on track? Do they appear to be following a script that's working?
Well, for me, first of all, I'd like to answer your question, but at the same time, I'd also like to speak on the issue of independence. First of all, I think Jubilee and NASA, yes, they are out trying to sell their agenda as much as possible, but they're not really talking to the issues of Kenya. They're not really communicating to Kenyans. It's all about rhetoric on both sides. We know the Jubilee has its own failures. We know NASA has its own failures, but they're not really connecting to the people. But what's important to me is that, you know, the media has always taken sort of like a look into only these two people, as in Jubilee and NASA, forgetting that there are other independents who are actually better options than what we're having.
What are they doing that we have not covered?
Well, what happened, a good example is the recent governor's debate that was organized by KTN. You know, they excluded some very serious gubernatorial aspirants like Geoffrey Wanyoike. They were not included in that. So the media should come out and actually include...
But many people would argue they're hearing the first time this candidate, Geoffrey Wanyoike, from you.
Not
in as far as whether it's media engagement, in as far as putting out
not really,
manifesto
not really, because Geoffrey Wanyoike has been on your station. He's been here, he's been interviewed more than 3 times. He's been on the first gubernatorial debate, which was organized by the Kenya Association of Residents, and he performed very well. But being excluded from the main debate that was organized by KTN, I think Nairobians were denied of a leader who, you know, they can listen to their agenda and someone who has a real plan for Nairobi.
All right, many thanks. Finally.
Oh, yeah, I do agree. But again, I think, as you asked, I think the independent candidates association, I don't know whether that's the name that you guys have actually coined to bring yourselves together as independent candidates. I think you need to do more about in terms of, you know, publicity, in terms of actually endearing yourself to the people. But again, while the focus is on the two horses, I think you have to give it to Kenyans that that's how they are wired in terms of their, you know, political formations and affiliations.
But they have to change.
They have to change, of course, because it has to be issue-based politics.
Absolutely.
Other than personality-based politics.
That's true.
But we are not yet mature. We are not yet there, and it's a matter of time that we want to see. Exactly.
All right. Many thanks. Unfortunately, I understand our time is up, but Brad Mutia was a pleasure, and Douglas Ebole as well, for being with us here on Worldview. Before we go, we had asked you on Twitter.